Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm Bob Spitz, your host, with my partner, Tony Whistler. And our special guest today is one of our senior coaches, and that is Cassaundra. I like to call her Cassie Croel. And what we're going to talk about, because Cassie is, she's the head of we have different teams in our coaching group, and she's the head of her team, and her team manages the Collision 20 group. So it's fitting that we're going to be talking about some collision things today, and especially the workshops that are coming up, not at our expo, but at the Towman Academy, which happens on Friday and Saturday, which all Drive clients can attend for free. It's no additional charge. It's really part of our entire expo. So Cassie, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Cassie, what are the workshops you're going to be doing?
Well, there's going to be two. One is blueprinting, and the other is negotiating with insurance companies.
Yeah, very hot topics and ones that our guys need to understand and know how to do. And speaking of blueprinting, the concept of blueprinting is not new. It really started in construction, and it's been in the collision industry, at least 10 years, the concept of blueprinting. But we still find shops that are not completely dialed in on a blueprinting process. Is that your experience, Cassie?
It has been. I feel that a lot of times shops feel that it's going to be time consuming. They feel that, hey, listen, if it's just a bumper, if it's just this or that, we kind of know the landscape. We know what to do to fix it. So first to tear down the entire vehicle, the time it's going to take, me paying my tech for that versus us moving on to another vehicle, they don't feel it's worth it. So they kind of gauge what they think is going to what's going on with the vehicle, and they determine whether they should blueprint or not.
Right. But it seems anymore the cars are so sophisticated, so complicated that even a minor front end hit, well, you could easily have all kinds of damage behind the scene that you might not see. Now, why don't you just explain to us simpletons here, what is the blueprinting process? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, like I'm a third grader. Dudes like that.
So you want to outline what's necessary to get the vehicle back to its pre-collision condition. And so it's a matter of tearing down the vehicle. So it would be with a technician, an R&I person, most likely, and a back-end estimator or estimator. And from there, they would blueprint, i.e. determine or lay out what it is that's wrong with the vehicle, what parts need to be ordered, and what repairs are going to be necessary.
Right. Now, understanding that there's a huge efficiency point here, isn't there, by blueprinting, and that is looking at every aspect of the vehicle, including OE procedures, which is actually, that kind of comes before you even start taking it apart. Isn't that true? They've got
Well,
to know the OE procedures.
you need to be well versed in OE procedures, period. Now, as you're taking the vehicle down, or once you take it down, it may require further research. And there's obviously websites you can go to for that, One Stop OEM, the DEG website. There's different resources. I believe even CCC, they have some research capabilities there. So it is time consuming, and with that said, listen, if a shop wants to get vehicles through and they're trying to maximize and make money, and also too, they want to make sure their people are trained. If you start throwing all of that in the mix, they may do their pros and cons if it's always necessary. But here's the backside of this. If you don't do it, then you could face, as you're going through the repair process, that, okay, this is wrong and that's wrong. So now I have to stop the repair. I have to order more parts. And we all know that parts have been an issue as far as being delayed, right? And then at that point in time, you either move on to another vehicle. Well, the customer's waiting. And then the insurance company is going to be even more concerned because you have to go back, negotiate the supplement. And also too, if they're providing a rental car, that's longer time. They have to do that. Your touch time has increased if you're working with a DRP which never is a good thing. You always want to have a record having a very good touch time. So, really, there's just so many things that mount as a con if you don't do the blueprinting process. That can happen. So if I have 3 or 4 supplements, you're going to have a supplement probably anyway. But if I have 3 or 4 added supplements and the repair is delayed and I'm waiting on parts, all because I didn't blueprint. So when you look at it that way, then you have to really decide as a shop, what's going to be your policy about this? Is it going to be 80% blueprinting? Is it going to be 100%? What are you going to do?
Well, if the shop is being paid to blueprint, it could just be they're just worried about the key to key or how long it's going to be at the cycle time. Is that their concern? Because they're gonna get paid for that anyway, or are they not?
Well, that's a very good point. Is that in negotiating with the insurance companies, they don't always pay for your research time.
Right.
Yeah.
The OE research, I know that's been a point of contention with collision shops, that admin time, even though it's a line item on their estimate, is getting shot down more often than not.
Exactly.
Right. So it's a matter of trying to get the insurance company, with industry pressure by the shops, to get them to change their tune. And if shops are willing to back down, well, the insurance company is not going to offer it.
Right. That's why you gotta stand together.
That's right.
And the more versed you are in dealing with the insurance companies, or what your rights are, as much as there are rights in the situation, the more you can get comfortable pushing for that. But to answer your question, Tony, to speak to that, I think that a lot of owners don't, they don't feel they're going to get reimbursed for that time. So they don't expect, right, this is gonna be time lost, me researching, doing this blueprinting. And what if I don't need to do anything extra? So what did I do?
Right.
So again, I implore owners to really look at their past history and see how many times when they didn't blueprint, it turned into, supplement after supplement, and parts waiting time and delay to the customer, and then really decide what's going to be the policy moving forward.
Yeah, because the one thing that collision shops are always monitoring and trying to eradicate is dead time. There's nothing worse than dead time in a collision shop.
Right.
Because the profit margins are so thin. So yeah, so I think the time spent up front is more than worth it for what happens throughout it. Now, another interesting point that's going on regarding insurance, and we'll get into negotiating a little bit here, but I was talking to Knockout Collision, and insurance companies are not necessarily paying the full load on the repair. So now that's a separate point, because I know as a collision shop, you want to tell the customer, look, we're going to take care of this. We'll work with your insurance company. You don't have to worry about this. But they can't really say that anymore, can they? Because if I
No,
take it apart, I blueprint and I see there's something else, and the insurance company goes, we're not paying for that.
Then it's on the customer.
exactly. So what's happened is that, ethically, I know especially drive shops, is that OE procedures and OE parts is something that they push for. Definitely OE procedures. So if you have insurance companies who are trying to circumvent that, especially when it comes to the parts, and you're saying, this is the only way for my reputation, for my customer safety, that I'm willing to do this, then there could be a difference where they say, this is how much as far as I will go. If you want to repair it this way, someone's got to pick up the difference. So we do have shops who have said, to their customers, this is how we want to repair. I'm going to explain to you what we want to do. If the insurance company doesn't cover the rest, then you would be responsible. And it's really a tough place for the shops to be in. But no, when they're asking you that, they're doing it because they're actually trying to repair your vehicle to the safest possible. And,
Right.
Not to point fingers, but if the insurance companies are not meeting that, then, it leaves a difference there that someone's got to cover.
And if there's some kind of shortcutting because the insurance company puts pressure, who's on the hook for that? It ain't going to be the insurance companies. It'll be the shop.
I mean, I do know it depends on your state. I know there's one state to where after the first year, they will replace or they will reimburse you for OE procedures, but not OE parts.
Mm.
So if you, if
Wow.
the owner is pushing for OE parts, then it's not going to get reimbursed. And then you're looking at aftermarket. And that's a state law. So, there's a lot of other factors going in there for shop owners that the customer doesn't realize.
Yeah, so
Right.
the intake procedure by a collision shop with the consumer has got to change a little bit as far as their patter and what they're telling the customer, that there is a chance that there's going to be things on this vehicle that will not be covered by the insurance company because we only do it one way, the right way, that requires OE material, OE parts, and OE procedures. And just shut up and see how the customer responds. Oh,
And then
by
you
the
can
way,
also
Dennis,
stick the customer on the insurance company. If it were me, I wouldn't just happily go, yeah, just I'll pay for it. I'd be calling my insurance company that I've been paying premiums to for the last 30 years. And I'd be
yeah,
talking to them as a advocate for myself. And that, how do you feel about shops using the customers themselves as negotiating points with the insurance company? I mean, that's usually, I think it could be very helpful.
I encourage it. But it's funny you say that because I just had an example with a shop owner to where a customer said, listen, we're not going to go with you because you're more expensive than this, other shop, and I don't want to make it so hard on my insurance company.
I don't
And
want to make it hard on my insurance company.
so it's clearly it's education has to happen. And that's another thing that the collision shops take the burden of. It's because most people don't know the process, the collision repair process, dealing with insurance company and what their rights are. So even explaining, just the repair, but also too what their rights are as the education they have to take on.
You're right.
Yeah, otherwise the customer would say that they would say, okay, well, you're way more than this other person. Your deductible is the same.
That's right.
But there's a fear, is the insurance company going to drop me? Are they going to raise my premiums? There's all of these other misnomers, you know what I mean, that I think
Right.
people just don't understand. And,
Yeah,
and you have to phrase it in such a way as a collision shop that you're not coming from a self-serving point of view, that you're actually giving them the actual facts, that's not the case. Insurance companies cannot do that.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
you
if
got to
you're out,
debunk
if you're
it.
out there, if you're out there and you're worried about the health of your insurance company, like, boy, I'm worried about the business. I hope that the insurance company's doing all right. Just remember, farmers paid $1 billion for the naming rights of the football field that in LA, the first one they were trying to build. They paid that. So that's how much money they have laying around in their
Oh,
marketing budget.
insurance is
Right.
banks borrow from them. They own so much real estate. By the way, Dennis Guru is watching. Hello, Dennis.
Hi,
Nice.
Dennis.
Very good.
But general repair is running to this too, Cassie, with the aftermarket warranties not covering everything and not wanting to cover OE parts. So yeah, our patter, our check-in procedure has got to really tighten up and be very educational to the customer because very few customers have ever read their insurance contract, their aftermarket insurance contract. They really don't know. And you might see something like we will replace that part with LKQ. Well, consumers don't know what LKQ is. That's like kind quality, that's used.
Mm.
So, all these educational points have got to be thought through, and you've got to take the time. You can't be in such a rush when you're checking in customers that you don't do this correctly. Yeah,
Absolutely. And it really does put the collision shops, like I said, is a lot on their shoulders to assist the customer to get the work in and show what their true talents are. And then to walk through the process. And then as we're going to talk about negotiating with insurance companies on the customer's behalf, but also to keep the shop profitable.
yeah. Well, I think they should always sit down a customer and have them watch the Eagle collision shop fiasco that happened, what, 5 or 6 years now in Denver, and go, this is why we only use OE. This is
Right.
why our repair is more expensive, because we insist on only OE, because our primary focus is your safety, and the correct repair of this vehicle. And who's going to
Absolutely.
argue with that? Unless someone says, well, I'm just going to sell the car. Oh, great. You're going to sell,
Just some going to give it to somebody else.
Somebody else.
Some poor other schlupp is going to wind up.
Right.
This bomb. So when we go through the blueprint process, we've documented everything, every nut, bolt, screw, clip, panel, every procedure that needs to be performed to bring the car to pre-crash condition. Now comes our next step, which is we got to negotiate this with the insurance company,
Mhm.
right? So what tips do you have, or because I don't want you to give away your workshop, you're going to be talking about this.
Got to come to the expo to hear the
Got to
real
come to the
juicy
expo to
stuff.
hear that. Thank you so much for showing up. Have a good day. What do you find with our guys and negotiating?
I think the biggest thing that, people bypass is that you want to walk into this as the profit of the overall estimate. So, you may get stuck on, they're not giving me the labor rate I want. They're not going to give me this item that's, OE procedure. They're not giving me this part. Don't get stuck there, and look at the overall profit or the dollar amount you're looking for this from this estimate. So if you need to get it from your forgettables list, if you need to get it from admin time, if you need to get it for the fact that you are going to get this supplement, you need to document everything that's there and then sit down and have the conversation. And then make sure you walk away with what you need and understand they have their quotas, they have their agenda. There's nothing you can do about it, right? You have yours. I mean, I'm not saying this is fun, but on some level, it's a game. And you both have things you need to walk away with, but you both have to work together, right?
Yeah, for
So
the
just
benefit of the customer.
for the benefit of the
Right.
customer, they don't want to lose the customer at the end of the day. You're right, Tony. You could say to them, hey, listen, you got to call your insurance company. At the end of the day, they don't want to have to take that call,
Right.
right? So you just sit down and say, listen, we both want to get this done. What is it you need? I'll tell you, these are the things that I need, and let's go through and try to figure this out. And definitely
Keep it
go,
light.
yeah, keep it light. Go in doing your research. And if you have to go into battle, you do, but you don't want to start, you don't need to start that way.
Right.
And I think that you want to go in making sure that you've done your research too. So you have all your ducks in a row, and then you can sit down and have the conversation with them.
Now, speaking of research, besides the OE research, which can take, an hour to do, there's this nifty new tool that I was reading about, and we actually put it into our workshops that scrubs the estimate and looks for things the shop may have forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is
right.
the bot. Yeah, the bot. Yeah.
So they have the, yeah, go ahead.
Because you want to be completely prepared, as you said. Before
Mhm.
you sit down with the insurance company, you have all your ducks in a row, know exactly where you're going, know what your profit margin needs to be, and a path on how I'm going to get there.
And I think it's important, which can get lost in collision, is how much labor it took to do the job. Because you have more than one person working on a vehicle. And although, we have different shop management systems that can have you clock in and clock out, I don't know if it's as an exact science as you have, maybe more so in general repair. So, I just think that you have to really look at P pages, look at, all the labor that should be on that job, cross-reference and see what you did, and maybe if you did even more, and make sure that that makes it to the estimate.
Right. And understand that negotiation and negotiating is a skill, and it's a
Right.
practice skill, very much like sales.
Mm-hmm.
And you either know how to negotiate or you don't. You either know the rules of the game or you don't. And to the degree that you don't is the degree that you won't get what you want and what you need. So learning how to negotiate and practicing those techniques is something that every collision shop needs to do.
I feel like any collision shop that really masters it probably could negotiate anywhere. You can
Oh,
you can negotiate with insurance companies. You can negotiate anywhere in the world on any subject.
absolutely. I don't know if you can negotiate with Vons at the checker.
Negotiate over a hot dog.
These groceries are a little more than I had budgeted.
Will you
Folks
take
coming out.
25% less? No.
Right. Then they start giving you the substitute with their house brands,
That's right. The plain wrap. The plain
the
wrap
plain wrap.
brands.
Yeah.
So I
So,
wanted to talk a little bit about you being one of our great instructors here at Drive internally. Like you, I loved having you in my area, and I always love to talk about workshops. And so I know we've been talking about workshops for the expo, but you actually are a pretty darn good instructor, and you instructed more than a few of my workshops for many, many years. And I was wondering if you wanted to chat about that a little bit.
Well, I know that as we move to online, I really think it's a great benefit. I feel like it makes it more accessible to a lot of our clients. Even if it's a matter of you're on camera for a little bit and you can hear us, at least you're getting the data, even if you can chime in a bit. And it just makes it easier for your employees to get involved, versus flying them to California, taking the time off. So and I know there's the in-person piece that seems to be missing for people. And that's why, I implore you to come to Expo and to have the in-person. So as much as I enjoy the online, because I see the benefit and I see how it helps my personal clients, the clients on my pod, as far as them getting more coaching so that when we come to the consulting, then everybody's, well versed and we can just move the shop forward even faster. But, I look forward to doing it in person because there is an added it's definitely, it could be more avant-garde, although online we do open up the door to, if anybody wants to chime in, go ahead. But when you're in person, you're going to have sidebars afterwards where we're all still talking, you're going to have moments where, there's just a connection, a different kind of connection.
There's an
Although
energy.
there's a different energy, but although I really don't feel like it's more so than online, to be honest, in my personal opinion. And,
Mhm,
I know some people are really excited about the in-person, but I still feel like online is just, there's an efficiency.
mhm.
And I feel like, if shop owners saw it that way, they'd say, I'm taking this information, I'm applying it today, I'm coming back tomorrow to the instructor to discuss if it didn't work. Versus
That's
coming
great too. Yeah.
in person, I'm getting a ton of information, I'm enjoying my people, and then I'm going back and, okay, wait, I'm getting back in the groove and I'm trying to implement all of this. So there's benefits to both, but I definitely think that, they really should take advantage of each, as much as possible.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Cool. Thank you.
yeah, I just know personally, it's easier for me to read the room when I'm in person as an
Right.
instructor, unless
Yep.
everybody's got their cameras turned on. And some of our instructors are very good at getting everybody turned on their cameras, and some aren't. Because yeah, you got to get them to turn on those cameras so that you
We can
can
see
see
their
them.
faces.
And yeah, absolutely, it makes it more real. But you're absolutely right, Cassie. There's nothing like, let's say it's a 6 segment workshop that would normally take 3 or 4 days in person to deliver. And yet, here in the 6 segment, after the first segment, you've got a realization about something in your shop that you can go and change and apply right now.
Yeah.
You
Five
don't
minutes
have
after
to,
the
five
workshop
minutes
ends.
after the workshop. That's right.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait to get home and try to remember what it was that you want to do. And it's right there.
Yep.
So there's huge advantages. And I encourage, and Tony knows this, I encourage everybody all the time to attend our workshops, our action coaching workshops and our master workshops. And
Online.
yeah, and they're going to get a taste of it at not only the Drive Expo, but the Towman Academy,
Right.
which will be on Friday and Saturday. And I think it's going to be a great experience. You're going to get to talk to a lot of different people from all over the country with different situations. And you learn so much from just that networking that to not do it would, well, it'd be silly. So let's make sure we do it.
Right.
Tony, I think we're time for a station break.
Yeah, so this is where I normally mention the expo, but we've been talking expo the whole time, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to mention it anyway. We have
That's
the
right.
expo coming up in June. It starts on the 19th, goes till the 21st, I believe, or the 22nd. I can't see it.
22nd.
22nd, correct. And so that's going to be our expo in Dallas. So make your plans to be there because it's always a party. And then, of course, we always like to mention who we're going to have on the show next week. And next week, we're taking a little break, Bob.
That's
so
right.
we're not going to have a show. So that's we're going to play a rerun. No, I don't know what we're just
The best of.
the best. I don't know. Yeah, so nobody next week. So not a whole
That's
lot to
right.
announce. So there you go.
For Memorial Day weekend, and
That's right.
yeah,
We want
we're hoping everybody has a great time, a very safe and happy Memorial Day. Don't eat too many Johnsonvilles, and have a good time.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
but we are returning. I was just reminded by Chase, we are returning on the 31st. And we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the 31st. I don't know what's going on the 31st, Tony.
It's going to be great.
It's going
That's
to be
all I
great.
know.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you.
That's all we need to know. It's going to be a great
FYI.
show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, Cassie, thanks so much for joining us today. We
Thanks for having me.
appreciate your input. Oh, you're very welcome.
That
And
was
once again,
wonderful.
everybody, come to the expo. Come see Cassie. If you've got a collision shop, come see Cassie. Rub elbows with other collision shop owners. Find out what they're doing that's working. And go home energized and ready to take your shop to the next level.
Awesome.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay, so Tony, you take care. I'm going to be off for the next 2 weeks. My daughter's visiting me from Florida, so I'm taking off some time.
That's awesome.
So I'll see you guys next month.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. See you guys.
All right. See you, Cassie.
Bye.